Quote of the day: let today be a soft rebellion against fear, against rush, and against doubt. Breathe slower, laugh sooner, and remember, even the lilies don't stress about blooming. Look at the lilies and how they grow. They do not work or make their clothes, and if God cares so wonderfully for flowers, he will certainly care for you. Luke chapter 12, verse 27 to 28. That is the quote of the day. Now let's get right into this video. Now, this Raw review, we might just blow right through it and just speed run it at this point because this episode of Raw was 95% filler, 95% skippable garbage. And I promise you, if I wasn't watching this live, I would have just skipped right to the main event. Dude, this show sucked. Oh my God. The matches didn't matter. The promos were laughable. Man, this show was nonsense. And then we even got like a semi explanation for the whole Brock Lesnar situation. And dude, I'm like, why even bring it up if you weren't gonna say anything of substance? Like, dude, this show was egregious. This show was laughably bad. I don't even know what to say at this point, man. Like I said, 95% filler. Like the only good thing we got was literally the main event, and the main event wasn't anything exceptional. It was just confusion on top of confusion at this point. Man, let's just get right into this so this video is not too long, because this video does not deserve to be long with what we got. So anyways, though, we kick off with an in-ring promo from Seth and friends, the group of Seth Rollins and the Bronze and the Oracle Paul Heyman. So Paul Heyman started off just reintroducing every member of the group for whatever reason, and he gets to Seth Rollins and he says, Seth is your new World Heavyweight Champion, stuff like that. And then Seth Rollins, he gets on the mic and he says to the fans, shame on you, shame on everyone who chanted CM Punk's name, shame on everyone who turned their backs on me, shame on everyone who didn't believe in me. Seth says, I always have a plan B. And now we hold absolute power over WWE. No one can step up to us now. No one can stop us now. This right here, this is the vision. We are the vision. We are the future. And this is the vision. And that's basically what Seth Rollins says. And out of nowhere, LA Knight's theme song hits, and LA Knight comes out. And he says that Seth Rollins faked the injury not to win the World Heavyweight Championship. No, he didn't fake the injury for that. He faked the injury to weasel his way out of their match at Saturday Night Main Event. He faked the injury to weasel his way out of fighting LA Knight, And LA Knight looks at Seth Rollins and he says, I was the last person to beat you and I will be the next. And he challenges Seth Rollins for a fight for the World Heavyweight Championship. And Seth Rollins says, you want to fight tonight in Brooklyn for this World Heavyweight Championship? Getting the fans all riled up and stuff. And he looks at LA Knight, he says, no. And then he just exits out the ring. And big, bald Mr. Adam Pearce comes out of nowhere with his head all shiny and oily. He comes out and he says, Seth Rollins, you lied about your injury. You faked your injury. You keep lying to us and you faked your injury. And I can't let that slide, You had your own team lie to us. The medical team lied to us about your injury and faking it. And he says, I have no choice but to make this match official. Since you don't want to play by the rules, I won't play by the rules either. And Adam Pearce makes the match official. And tonight we will get LA Knight versus Seth Rollins, the main event. And that was the opening segment. After this, though, we got our first match of the night, and it was Rusev versus Sheamus. And I was watching this. I'm like, dude, why are we even getting this again? And it was a normal one-on-one match at that, too. No stipulations, no stakes, no nothing. Just the normal one-on-one match we've been getting for the past 5-6 weeks at this point. We got this match for the 59th time tonight. Dude, at this point, I'm like, I don't care about this rivalry. This rivalry is meaningless to me. I don't even remember what it's about, I don't even remember the point of it. I don't even remember why they're mad at each other at this point. This is meaningless. I don't care. I know the fans don't care. And I don't even remember if this match was good or not. I don't even remember what happened throughout this match. All I remember was that after this match, those two men just kept brawling throughout the whole night and backstage segments and stuff like that. That's all I remember from this. But anyhow, though, this match ended up ending in a double countout. So nobody won. It was basically a no contest, I guess. And after the no contest call is, said, we get a big brawl from Sheamus and Rusev. These two men they just go at each other, start trying to tear each other apart. And they have to be separated by security and the officials. And I guess this rivalry seems to be continue. It's going to continue. I'm like, okay, nobody cares about this, but whatever, pop off, I guess. But yeah, so this rivalry is continuing. Like I said, they just kept brawling throughout the whole night. After this, we got a pretty funny New Day and Grayson Waller backstage segment, and we saw Xavier Woods. I'm telling you, this man was wearing a whole planet on his head. Xavier Woods was wearing the fedora of doom, the hat final boss, dude. I'm like, what is on your head? Oh my god. It was so funny. But anyhow, though, we got this backstage segment just to basically set up a Grayson Waller versus Penta match, and that was that. So we got to our second match of the night, and it was Penta versus Grayson Waller. And first and foremost, I am glad that Grayson Waller is getting screen time. I do find him very entertaining, both in ring and out of ring, and in his segments. He is pretty entertaining to me, so I'm glad he's getting some screen time. Anyhow, though, we had New Day ringside, and they were pretty funny on the commentary. But this match overall, it was pointless, it was meaningless, but it was still slightly a tiny bit entertaining nonetheless. Penta ended up picking up the win fairly easily. Then we got a brawl between Penta and Kofi and Xavier Woods, and Penta basically just jobs out Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. He leaves them laid out, and that was that. After this, we got a replay of SummerSlam, and it was the whole Brock Lesnar situation. We got a replay of Brock Lesnar showing up and attacking John Cena. And in WWE, Michael Cole, on WWE's behalf, delivered a half-cooked up, goofy behind explanation on the whole Brock Lesnar situation and Brock Lesnar's whole return. And so basically the whole story behind this is that they said TKO and Triple H reached out to Brock Lesnar a few weeks ago, and they said, Triple H, the game. He says, Brock, it's time for you to return home. So that's basically what it was. Triple H and TKO, they reach out to Brock Lesnar to tell Brock Lesnar that it's time for Brock Lesnar to return home. And Brock Lesnar just, up and says, you know what? Let's do it, I guess. And Brock Lesnar's squeaky voice. Anyhow, yeah. So basically, that's the whole story behind it. We didn't get any explanation addressing the allegations or the story behind it or the court case, the lawsuit, nothing. It's just basically that Triple H and TKO reached out to Brock Lesnar and said, it's time to come back home. And Brock Lesnar said, let's do it. And that's all we got. That's the explanation we got. I'm like, dude, why even bring it up if you weren't going to add anything to it? Jesus Christ. But anyhow, though, after this, we got a Charlotte Flair, Alexa Bliss, and Judgment Day in-ring promo as well as a match. Now, the promo segment absolutely sucked. It was funny, but it was a bit all over the place, and it was very unrefined. Like, it was messy at parts, And it kind of felt like the women were kind of fumbling their lines and stuff like that. But anyhow, though, like I said, it was funny, but just, a bit messy and all over the place. Anyhow, though, we got to the match, and the match was actually pretty entertaining. And dude, it has to be said, Charlotte Flair is by far one of the greatest women's in-ring performers, one of the greatest in-ring competitors. One of, not the greatest, but one of, dude. She always shows up and she always shows out. She always delivers, always brings the intensity, the aggression, and, she's always, putting on the show. We got to give credit where credit is due and give her roses or flowers and, props where props is due. Charlotte is always showing up and showing out. But anyways, though, this match was semi-long, I guess. It wasn't like a quick match by any means. And the end of it all, at the very, very end of the match, Alexa Bliss ended up hitting a Sister Abigail DDT on Roxanne Perez for the win. And Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss retained the tag team championships. And this match, it actually started picking up like in the second half. Like the first half, just like their SummerSlam match, started off pretty boring and they picked up in the second half. That's kind of the theme I'm noticing as of late. But anyhow, though, like I said, Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss, they retain. After this, we got another match. It was Dragon Lee versus Dirty Dominic Mysterio. And it was just a normal one-on-one match, not for the championship or anything, just a normal one-on-one match. And I'm glad that Dominic Mysterio is actually showing up now and he's actually wrestling. So that's a positive, the champion actually wrestling, even though it's not for the title. At least he's doing something. This match, though, it was pretty mid for what it was. We got interference from 3 different El Grande Americanos. El Grande Americani? I don't know. But anyhow, we got interference from 3 different El Grande Americanos. And Dirty Dominic used the distraction to pick up the win over Dragon Lee. And after this, Dragon Lee was about to get jumped by 3 different El Grande Americanos and Dirty Dominic Mysterio. And AJ Styles ended up coming out to the aid of Dragon Lee, and he attacked Dominic Mysterio. So the whole AJ Styles and Dirty Dominic Mysterio arc is still continuing. Pretty cool, I guess. I hope the end result is AJ Styles getting the championship, the Intercontinental Championship. After that, though, we got a pretty mid, boring Sami Zayn backstage interview segment. The highlight of it was that it got interrupted and got hijacked by Sheamus and Rusev, brawling and fighting with each other. Like, these men could not be separated at all. They crashed in on the Sami Zayn interview segment. And don't worry, this was a blessing in disguise because Sami Zayn wasn't talking about nothing. He wasn't saying anything of substance. This was a blessing in disguise. After that, we got an in-ring promo from the man, Becky Lynch and Nikki Bella. It was an in-ring promo. And I finally noticed Becky Lynch's new entrance song, and I think it was, presented at SummerSlam, and I didn't notice it back then, but I finally noticed it tonight. And let me just say, this theme song, this entrance song, it absolutely slaps. And this is not the work of Death Rebel. I know that for sure, for a fact. I would put money on it. This was not Death Rebel, okay? They wouldn't be able to cook up something this good. But anyhow, though, this in-ring promo segment, it was entertaining for one part of it. Like, literally one part of it was good. One part of it was entertaining. And it was a John Cena line. Becky Lynch making a reference to John Cena and Nikki Bella's relationship. That was literally the only good part of it. Besides that, though, nothing really mattered. They didn't really say anything of substance. But let's get into what was said, nonetheless. So Becky Lynch basically comes out and she says that Lyra Valkyria is officially gone now, and Lyra Valkyria will no longer be able to challenge her for the Women's Intercontinental Championship, not as long as the man, Becky Lynch, is champion. It's time for new competitors, it's time for new faces and new competition. And out of nowhere, Nikki Bella shows up, accepting the challenge, basically. And Nikki Bella comes out and she says, when I left WWE, I thought I left the women's division in good hands, in safe hands. But Becky, you turned out to be such a huge disappointment. Why did you even come back, Becky? You couldn't stand to see the new women shine. Is that it? You just wanted to come back and steal the spotlight? And I'm over here thinking, I'm like, really, Becky? Aren't you basically doing the same thing? Why are you back? Like, this is a bit hypocritical, huh? But anyhow, though, after this, Nikki Bella calls Becky Lynch a liar, just like her husband, Seth Rollins, And then Becky Lynch ends up bringing up Nikki Bella and John Cena, saying that, me and Seth Rollins are the greatest wrestling couple right now. Just like you and Mr. You Can't See Me were, huh? And then the crowd absolutely erupt. They go crazy. And I'm at this point, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, dude, Nikki Bella literally has zero ammo at this point. Like, she's such an easy target. No promo segment is she actually gonna get one over on the women. Like, there's so much ammunition against her. I'm like, she's such an easy target. And I felt bad for her because she tried, but it's too much to use against her. Too much of an easy target. But anyways, though, Nikki Bella ended up challenging Becky Lynch for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. And then Becky Lynch ended up cheap-shotting Nikki Bella and leaving her laid out. Then we finally got to our main event. It was Seth Rollins versus LA Knight for the World Heavyweight Championship. And this was a really good match. And it was very quick-paced, not sluggish or anything. It was quick-paced. And the in-ring moves and in-ring action was pretty entertaining. Both LA Knight and Seth Rollins are incredible in the ring, so this is exactly what I expected and exactly what I wanted. This match was match of the night for me. It was really entertaining. Up until the interferences, I guess, But anyhow, though, at the very end of the match, Seth Rollins was seconds away from curve stomping LA Knight's head into exposed concrete. And out of nowhere, the best in the world, CM Punk, comes in and he attacks Seth Rollins, and the match ends in no contest. And then after this happens, CM Punk brawls with Seth Rollins a little bit, and then the Bronze come out. Seth and the Bronze absolutely clear out everyone. They clear out LA Knight. They clear out CM Punk. They curve stomp LA Knight, curve stomp CM Punk, and Seth and friends stand tall, and then we get the whole little Paul Levesque message, saying WWE copyright, blah, 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 literally hinting that the show's over. And I'm like, dude, they're kind of taking a bit long to, fade to black like they always do. I'm like, something's happening. And then the back of my brain scratched and I'm like, oh, Roman's coming out. And I guessed it right as I'm thinking it. Boom. We hear the OTC, Roman Reigns, the tribal chief. He comes out. His theme song hits. And Roman Reigns absolutely destroys the Bronze. He destroys Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. And then he stares down Seth Rollins. And he gets in the ring. And then Seth Rollins is just looking at Roman. Roman's looking at Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins looking at Roman. Roman's looking at Seth Rollins. And Seth Rollins has no choice but to retreat, until the Bronze come back in and they get the upper hand and they start, being able to beat down Roman again. Seth Rollins curve stomps Roman Reigns. Braun Breaker hits a super spear on Roman Reigns, and Bronson Reed hits 3 tsunamis on Roman, and they basically leave Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and LA Knight completely laid out, and Seth and friends stand tall. And the funny thing is, The tribal thief, he strikes again. The tribal thief, he snatches another pair of J's, another pair of Jordans from Roman Reigns. And I'm like, dude, at this point, Roman Reigns needs to start saying, swiper, no swiping, swiper, no swiping, because golly, this is getting out of hand. Mr. Butterfingers over here, any pairs of Jordans he sees, it's on site at this point, man. Jesus. I'm like, the tribal thief strikes again. Mr. Butterfingers, Mr. Sticky Fingers over here. Any pairs of Jordans, like Bronson Reed is looking at Jordans like Naomi, he's like, proceed with caution. Any Jordans around Bronson Reed, they're getting snatched at this point. And I'm like, these superstars need to start learning the Dora slang, the Dora spell, swiper, no swiping. It works every time. But anyhow, though, goofiness aside, like I said, this show was 95% filler. Like, we only got one good segment, one good match, and it was the main event, in my opinion. So overall, though, all hype aside, all cheap pop aside, I can't rate this show anything higher than a 4 out of 10. It was literally, like I said, filler. It was skippable. Like, 95% of it was skippable. The only good part was the main event. So like I said, though, I'm going to rate this episode, a solid 4 out of 10, no higher. And this was a gracious 4 out of 10, I'm probably giving more credit than I should, but anyhow, I'm rating it a 4 out of 10. But yeah, that's my review and my breakdown of Raw this week. Thank you for showing up, thank you for hearing me out, and thank you for being here. Like, comment, and subscribe if you want to. Like, comment, and subscribe if you'd like to. And like, comment, and subscribe if you choose to. As always, it's been a pleasure. I'm out.